Please stand for the invocation from Councilman Goldberg, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Let us pray. Heavenly Spirit, we ask your blessings on all who are gathered here tonight as we prepare in the handling of city business. We pray for your guidance and wisdom as we govern in dealing with the issues that face our community. We pray for unity of purpose and the ability to work in harmony with a sense of the welfare and the true needs of our community. In your blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler-Barlow.
Here.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Here.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Dukes.
Here. Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, please present the resolution for consideration.
A resolution certifying the closed meeting of March the 3rd. The Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Suffolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and only such public business matters as identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the City Council, the City of Suffolk in the closed meeting.
Motion is in order. Councilman Fawcett, first to second, Councilman Williams. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler-Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Approval of the minutes from the September 28th, 2020 special meeting and the October 7th, 2020 work session and regular meeting is the next item for consideration. The motion is in order. So move. Councilman Williams.
Second.
A second from Councilman Ward. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler-Barlow.
Abstain.
Councilmember Fawcett. Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
I approve of the September 28th special meeting and abstain from the October 7th meeting.
I have a question for the city attorney. If it's one motion, is that feasible for him to abstain from one piece and not the other, as the motion did not delineate those two separations?
No, wasn't here.
The motion included both.
Motion included both, so it would have to be a.
I have to abstain.
Amend the motion.
Abstain.
We're going to amend the motion.
Thank you very much. The motion is approved by a vote of 6-2 with Councilmember Butler-Barlow and Mayor Duman abstaining.
Okay, we'll now move to special presentations. We have a special presentation concerning the COVID-19 vaccination efforts. Mr. Manager, please present the
Yes, sir.
overview.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as you're aware, city staff continues to work closely with the Western Tidewater Health District and in support of them and along with local physicians in their administration of COVID-19 vaccinations. Tonight's presentation, again, will be a two-part presentation. We have the privilege of having Dr. Lauren James with us, the Interim Director of the Western Tidewater Health District, and she will be followed by Deputy Chief Spicer, who will provide some additional information. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. James to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All right, we'll go ahead to the first slide. Okay, so our pandemic dashboard, and so I'll just update you on our numbers in Suffolk. So this slide was created earlier this week, and we have good updates. So when it was created, we had about 30 new cases per 100,000, and that number has actually decreased to 25. Our percent positivity on this chart is listed as 10, but this week it has decreased to 8.4. Our state percent positivity is about 6, so we're really moving in the right direction. Additionally, we do not have any outbreaks at this time, and our percent of cases in healthcare workers is about 2.8, and that's always important to look at because our healthcare workers are providing services and they need to be available and healthy in case we did have a surge. So that's why that's important. Next slide, please. Vaccine update. We now have 3 vaccines that have been approved by the EUA process: Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. In Western Tidewater, we are currently utilizing Moderna and Pfizer. These are both mRNA-based. Moderna is 2 doses, 28 days apart. Pfizer is 2 doses, 21 days apart. Next slide, please. So now that we have Johnson & Johnson available starting at the end of this week, in just a few health districts, we know that this is 72% effective in preventing moderate to severe disease. An inactive virus protein induces immune response to COVID. That's the mechanism. And this one is super exciting because it's only 1 dose. And it can be stored in the refrigerator for up to 3 months. So if we remember, that was one of the issues why we did not initially have Pfizer, because it requires special storage. But this is really good. So once this is pushed out fully to all of the health districts, it will be easily stored. Let's see. Under current VDH guidance, they prefer that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine only be used at mass vaccination events that are over 1,000 people. Next slide, please. So this is a repeat slide. While we provide mass vaccinations, vaccines reduce the number of susceptible individuals in the populations, prevent morbidity and mortality due to illness, and reduces transmission through herd immunity. And I do have to make a correction. At a previous presentation, I said herd immunity was about 1/3 of the population. In actuality, it's 75%, but that 75% does include those who have passive immunity. That means that they were directly affected with COVID and now have immunity, whereas people who have been immunized. So those are just the 2 types that can make up the 75%. Sorry, guys. Next one, please. All right, so this just reviews the city distribution plan. Our allocations are determined by the state, not the district. We still are on population-based allocation, and Suffolk is about 1% of the population. Group 1A is healthcare providers and long-term care facilities, and we've moved on to Group 1B, which are our frontline staff, police, corrections, daycare, and schools. I think we are currently doing our teachers. I'm not sure if it's first dose or second dose. We are moving on soon to food and agriculture, manufacturing, grocery store staff, public workers, public transit workers, mail carriers, and city officials, as well as those 16 to 64 with major chronic illness and 65 and up. So who can vaccinate? Our hospitals, health department, our pharmacists, and our local providers. So we are currently doing weekly events at the health department in Suffolk, 100 doses each Friday, give or take. All right, next slide, please. So what's new? We do have a centralized call center now. The 1-800 number is 877-829-4662, and this is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we also have a website, vaccinate.virginia.gov, and this is, you can call or you can email and pre-register to get on our vaccination list. So next slide, please. So prior to the statewide call center being set up, the city supported us with a local call center, which to my knowledge is still up and running, but across the state, they have had reduced calls at the local call center as the statewide call center supports more of the calls. Recently, March 1st and March 2nd, we had a Bayview Medical Group event, and this number needs to be corrected. They actually offered 2,500 vaccines to our citizens at the Hilton. Additionally, our new EMS partnership, they have actually expanded our efforts, and they are able to do vaccinations on site. So that is really helpful, and we plan to use them for additional events. federal pharmacy partnerships with Walgreens. So there are a few Walgreens in our district that have their own allocation that doesn't come from the health district, and they're allowed to vaccinate. So this is just expanding our reach. So this is really great. And we continue to partner with our local pharmacies and practices. And as of March 1st, Suffolk had administered 15,577 doses. Next slide, please. All right, vaccine equity. So this slide might be a little bit confusing. So technically, this is the amount of race information we have received, but there could be a lag. So for the past few weeks, that data probably is not in. And also, people do not have to disclose their race, but this is from the race information that has been inputted when people receive their vaccinations. So 160 Latino, blacks 2,554, whites 4,935, Asians 148. So we are going to be partnering with Suffolk Coalition of Black Pastors, specifically Reverend Blunt. We have discussed what our next steps are, how we are going to reach the community, those who are more vulnerable and do not have internet access and do not have email. So we've discussed ideas such as having churches create a list of their vulnerable citizens who cannot register online. In addition to that, we've discussed having churches support events. We're going to look into how we can get out into the community and meet the people where they are, so our equity can be improved. Oh, and also the biggest part is communication. So we're going to work with the churches and see if they're doing town halls to make sure that those who are offered the vaccine are comfortable and knowledgeable on what it entails, what the vaccination process is a part of as well. And lastly, let's see. Oh, I think I did mention that we did a church event at East End Baptist Church with Reverend Faison, and that was about 1,000 vaccines for the community of Western Tidewater. And this last slide, we are still in phase 1, but as you can see, we're on the upslope. So as the current vaccine pharmacy companies ramp up, we hope to be able to move away from our prioritized populations and just focus on general population without constraints. So the hope is that as we get larger doses available, we will be able to do more and more. And then the last phase 3 is when vaccines are readily available, just like the flu shot, at your everyday pharmacy, urgent care, primary care. So the end goal is phase 3, but we're moving towards phase 2, which is really good. That is all I have. Questions?
Thank you, Dr. James. Council, questions, comments?
I
Councilman
have one
Johnson?
question. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
James, thank you. The world is looking better, right? It is
It
looking
is.
better.
Thank you for that.
My question, though, I was glad to hear you talk about the churches, because I'm from rural Suffolk, and particularly in the African-American community. Is there any way we could possibly do like small vaccinations at the rural churches? Or I've had several phone calls of people that are interested. And do you have a liaison person that I could contact? Or
So we do not have a current liaison, but if you want to create a list, we're just going to use our current leadership team. But that is a good point. So what we're trying to do is, reach out through the churches and different community organizations so that we
Right.
can set up those things to reach those communities that might not be super close to a health department.
And some of these folks don't have transportation. That's my concern, particularly in the Holland community and out in the rural part, and also in Wayleable, I'm speaking, we do have a concern. So thank you. I was glad to hear that.
Yeah, and as we have more resources, just like we talked about the EMS partnership, once we have a list, that might be something that our EMS partners could set up a site that's, in the community.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
but
much.
yeah, if you want to forward me that list, that'd be
will-
great.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Dr. James, for your presentation. And a couple of things is, where is we going to be able to go into the churches? I think what I was looking at, if we could get with some of the ministers or churches and have them form a group, a number from each church, then they could come together and say, okay, I have 20 or 25 people that's ready for taking the shots. Then that will sort of get it into the community more, because what they are finding here is that like Bayview, when they had theirs yesterday and Monday and Tuesday, that population were way out. It was not taking care of the people in the downtown area, basically. And looking at the numbers that you showed, where it was 2,000 blacks and double that in whites, and that's a problem, because we are not getting the others the opportunity for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I've attended quite a few of them, and the number just doesn't add up with who I'm seeing. They're taking the shots. So we got to have some kind of equity, some way of getting this changed, where people will be able to get registered. And I think maybe by doing some of it through the churches will help a lot, because they're there with the people. They know the people. So that was just one of the suggestions that I want to make to take a look at. And maybe, I know Dr. Blunt and my pastor and all the others be more than happy to work together to try to form some type of list for that.
Yes.
Now, with the Johnson & Johnson, I think we are supposed to be getting some here in the Tidewater area from what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
So it has been designated for large mass vaccination events. So to my knowledge, we don't have any 1,000 or person event. And when I say mass vaccination, so it wouldn't be like a Bayview event. This would be like a true community event.
Right.
So I do think there are other districts that have like a true, just the community come out. For example, like when we do the flu drive. So they really want the Johnson & Johnson to be open to all. We don't want to appear that we are targeting it towards a specific community, even though we know it's a very good vaccine. Right now, the approach is that it be at large events, if that makes sense at all.
It makes a lot of sense,
Okay.
because listen to a few people talk about the difference. You might have to sell the Johnson & Johnson, because what they are hearing is it's a good vaccine, but it's not quite as good as the Pfizer and the other one. So some people, in their mind, I guess the mind plays putting things on you when you, well, what am I going to get? But they should take the shot regardless. The first one they can get, that's the one they should get.
Yes, the first one that's available is best, but they do have options. That's what we want to stay away from. We don't want people to feel like this is my one option. We want them to have different options.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilman Ward?
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and I've been thanking, especially the city. I have seen a couple of times they had shots, and I think we're very organized what we're doing in the city of Suffolk. I really appreciate that, but I just got to know when we coming up northern Suffolk. I mean, been down here a couple of times. I want to know when we coming up northern Suffolk. We got some facilities up there. I think that we'd love to have the opportunity for the elders. Probably got the Saints, got Little Grove Baptist Church up there, and I like to see can we get something going on up in the Pewterville section and the Huntersville section.
If you'd like to send me an email, I can make
Okay.
sure we kind of just have a list going
Okay.
and rotate it
Okay.
regularly through those communities that we
I will.
haven't. Because you're right, we've been very,
Thank you.
we've been very limited. But
Okay.
once again, as allocation increases, we'll be able to do more across the district, the very large district.
I thank you again for your time that I asked. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Speakers, Councilman Williams?
Yes, Dr. James, thank you. Great presentation. I'm glad to see that the numbers are going down. That's wonderful news. I'm glad that Johnson & Johnson is on the market now, and they're going to be helping a lot of people. I do have two questions. I want to piggyback off what Councilman Johnson said. I received several calls from the people or my constituencies all in the Wellerville, the rural area. They are concerned because, again, they don't have transportation to get downtown Suffolk. And I was just wondering, Mr. City Manager, if we could get with Dr. James and the staff and maybe look at the Wellerville Center as a spot where we can administer shots in the future. there's a need in the area, again, people just don't have the transportation. And the other concern, and I seem like I remember you saying this previous meetings as it relates to people wanting to sign up at the different pharmacies in other locations, and they're worried about the out-of-pocket expense that they may incur because they don't have insurance. So will there be an out-of-pocket expense? You don't know.
But that's a good question. Anything that's through the health department, we do not charge. But if it's a medical facility or a pharmacy, they can charge an administration fee. So I would, ask those people if they are concerned about a charge to go through the health department, because we're not allowed to charge, but we can't control what private practices are, they do. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Dr. James, thank you for your presentation. I know about 30 days ago I was kind of hard on you. It's amazing how far you've come in 30 days. I mean, the progress that's been made by your department, the state, the help of city staff. I mean, virtually the type of complaints that I was getting 30 days ago, they're almost been reduced to nothing. So whatever we're doing right. We're getting the information out. People are starting to see some progress. I did have one question for you in regards to the Bayview event on Monday. Just so happens I received my first shot. Now that I had COVID-19, I decided to get a shot. But anyhow, no, I was on the waiting list with Bayview, signed up about a month and a half ago, being one of their patients, and I was notified about the event that was held at the Hilton Garden on Monday and Tuesdays. It seems that somewhere along the line, I got a couple phone calls it was my understanding that Bayview, I guess they're the ones that held that event. It was their personnel, and it was for Bayview patients with appointments, because I know they were very specific when they set mine up about a week out. I must have gotten 8 different text messages or emails, be there whenever I signed up, 10:10. But there were individuals that showed up at the Hilton Garden that expected to get vaccinated, and they did not. Could you just explain how that particular event was arranged and what transpired?
Okay, so that was the Bayview and Health Department collaboration. So the new distribution is that the allocations for vaccine are mostly designated through the health department. So Bayview was given specific allocations so that they could vaccinate the Western Tidewater community, specifically in Suffolk. What we did is from the pre-registration list where people were able to put their email information in, we took that list and gave it to Bayview, and they crossed it with a list of their patients so that some of the people from the list, our pre-registration module, they were able to kind of move through this process instead of having to wait for an actual health department event. So to keep the event organized, Bayview did have to create a schedule, and within that schedule, that's important too, because that affects how much they can give and how much they're allocated to distribute. So it is very hard to take walk-ins if you already have a process. But to my knowledge, they were able to work in some, and that is based off of no-shows. And they're also, not to get into the weeds, but when you drop the medicine, I'm sure you all have seen on the news, some people are able to get more doses than others. Probably if I was drawing it up, maybe not me, but those experts. So often they could work in a few extra people. But it's very important that they stay organized so that they follow that process and don't create waste, and also don't not serve the people who had appointments.
So the process that was followed was proper in the way that the vaccinations were administered, the way it was set up by appointment, and as far as their allocation of vaccines through the health department, because they came through your department, correct? So that was a joint effort to get that done.
Okay,
and
right.
I would like to say it was very, very, very well run. I mean, I was in and out of there in about 20 minutes. They had it down to a science, and actually went back that afternoon. I thought it'd be a good place to bring a therapy dog, so we brought dogs back.
Oh.
Yeah, so they weren't, well, they went back Tuesday. But anyhow, yeah, it was one of the best run events. I mean, I know we've had some good ones, but I appreciate, what the Hilton Garden did, and I appreciate what Bayview did and what you did in partnering with them to make that happen, because I think that was with 1,200 vaccines plus or whatever.
Yeah, I think the 2,500 over both days.
Over both days,
So
yeah.
that's really good. That's a good amount.
Yeah,
We're working
that's-
our numbers up.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal. And like I said, I appreciate, how far we've come in such a short time, and that was only accomplished through a collective effort from your department, institutions like Bayview, the city manager, and everybody else. So I appreciate it very much. Questions? Okay, thank you. Chief Spicer?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. It's good to see everyone this evening. Going to give the city's perspective presentation and sort of touch on a few things that Dr. James has referenced in her presentation. The COVID testing, I believe Dr. James mentioned our positivity rate. We're at 9.4% for the Western Tidewater Health District, and you can see how we compare with the other jurisdictions around us as we move across. The red line across the graph there indicates the Hampton Roads average of 11.8%, and the blue line represents the Virginia average of 7.7%. So you can see we are, looks like we're about the lowest, our health district is about the lowest percent positive in Hampton Roads, at least Southside Hampton Roads right now. So as she said, things are looking better for us. The percent positivity rate has been decreasing for 50 straight days now. Actually, it's probably 55 now from the date of when we put this presentation together. The case counts have been decreasing for over 30 straight days. So again, all the numbers, the metrics on that are all going in the right direction for us. The governor recently made some amendments to his Executive Order 72 that took effect March 1st. The biggest portion of that being the areas highlighted in green there and in the bold text. And you can see that the entertainment values previously that were at 30% capacity or 250 persons have been increased and split between indoor and outdoor. And now the outdoor entertainment venues can open at 30% capacity or 1,000 persons. Recreational sports, again, they've split that out and increased the outdoor capacity up to 30% capacity or 250 spectators per field, as opposed to the 2 spectators per participant prior to March 1st. Gatherings, the limit has been split from a 10-person limit to an indoor limit of 10 and outdoor limit of 25 persons. Overnight summer camps, which had previously been closed, may open on May 1st with mitigation measures in place. So small steps in the right direction towards getting us back open. State of Virginia has administered almost 2 million doses of vaccine, and the percent of population vaccinated with at least 1 dose is almost 15%. Getting a little more detailed on the vaccinations, Western Tidewater Health District vaccinations, you can see the city of Suffolk has received over 15,000 doses and almost 4,300 full vaccines. And you can see how that compares to the other jurisdictions in the Western Tidewater Health District. I think we've told everyone that the vaccine has been allocated out on a percentage basis based on population, so it makes sense that Suffolk would be this much higher than the other jurisdictions. If you look at it on the vaccinations per 100,000, you can see that Suffolk's had almost 12,000 vaccines per 100,000, and you could look at the blue bar across with the other Western Tidewater health districts and see that we are lagging a little bit behind those other districts in the per 100,000 population vaccines. And when we take the same data and look at it across our jurisdictions to the east of us, you can see that Suffolk's had the 15,000 vaccines, and you can see how that compares to Portsmouth, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. Again, it's allocation based on population, so that explains that. And when you take a look at it in the same way we looked at the Western Tidewater data, you can see the almost 12,000 per 100,000 for Suffolk. And you can see we're right fair amount ahead of Portsmouth and Norfolk, and just slightly behind Chesapeake and Virginia Beach on our vaccinations per 100,000. Vaccination clinics, as we talked about a moment ago, the Bayview Physician Site took place the 1st and 2nd of this month. I think the initial goal was, or the initial thought was a 2,000 dose clinic, but as Dr. James said, there was like 2,500 over 2 days. Still a very successful clinic. This is a picture of that actual event. From the city, there was a little bit of support provided to that as well. It was a Bayview and a Western Tidewater event put together, but we did provide some on-scene EMS. We provided traffic control from our police department, some logistical support from Parks and Recreation, and we picked up the tab for the nutrition for the patients receiving the vaccine and for the staff administering the vaccine. A little bit of a duplicate side, forgive me on that. Western Tidewater Health Clinics by appointment only, 8:30 to 3:30. Franklin, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Isle of Wight, Thursdays, Southampton, and Fridays in Suffolk. These are the ongoing clinics that are occurring at the local health departments. In addition to that, other vaccine clinics and opportunities to receive vaccines are the local pharmacies, the Walgreens, the CVS, the Walmarts, all part of the Federal Pharmacy Partnership. Your primary care provider, urgent care facilities, your employer, the Department of Veterans Affairs, all places to go when seeking a vaccine. Western Tidewater Regional Jail, we were pleased to be able to partner with the health department to utilize our EMS providers to vaccinate about, I think it's a little over 50 of the employees at the Western Tidewater Regional Jail on February the 18th. As you can see, our paramedics were administering the vaccine. The health department provided the vaccine for us, and we had, I think, 6 to 8 paramedics on scene at that event providing vaccines to the regional jail. Very successful event, I think, and I think this really showed us that we're able to get out there and touch some of these perhaps smaller venues with our providers to reach down into the community to administer vaccinations. The call center, the City of Suffolk's call center, we opened that on February the 8th in the Suffolk Emergency Operations Center. Again, that was a joint effort between Franklin, Isle of Wight, and Southampton County, and we provided a positive, accurate flow of information to the public to alleviate the call congestion that was going on within the health department and their limited call-taking capabilities. First week of the call center, we answered upwards of 1,500 calls per day. We had 8 call takers during that first week, and we had personnel from the City of Suffolk. We had personnel from Franklin, Isle of Wight, and Southampton also assisting in taking calls. We also ended up hiring 4 temporary staff to work as call takers full-time in the facility. In addition to taking calls, we assisted with a considerable number of pre-registrations where the folks in the community could call us and we would get on the computer and actually do the pre-registration process for them. The Department of Health opened their statewide call center on the 17th of February, and the call volume to the City of Suffolk Center decreased at the time of this presentation was created to less than 90 per day. The temporary call takers have been reduced from 4 down to 2. We have reduced the number of staff that are in there in addition to the temporary call takers, and we are reevaluating the call volume and will assess the need to continue that in the near future. And just a graph to show you the call volume on the initial date. And it's interesting to note that the February 8th date of 1,500 calls was actually only a 4-hour day because we didn't open until noon. So it was pretty busy there for that first couple of days. But you can see where I've indicated where Diana and her group from Media and Community Relations really ramped up the media blitz out there to provide information to the public. And that alleviated, I think, a lot of the folks' need to call the call center. And then you can see on the 17th where the state call center opened up and the further drop in the call volume for our call center. I believe yesterday we had 65, 67 calls into the call center. So the volume is down significantly. As far as additional information, the Virginia Department of Health, www.vdh.virginia.gov or vaccinate.virginia.gov. The phone number for the call center for the state, 877-VAX-NVA, which translates to 877-829-4682. You can go to the Western Tidewater Health District's website. Probably the easiest way to get there is just go to vdh.gov and click on the link for it. Or you can go to suffolkva.us and link there to our COVID page for additional information. And as I said, the call center at the 4570 number is still operating at this time, and we're happy to take any calls. One additional development since I created this presentation that's just sort of evolved in the last couple of days is it looks like we're going to be working with the Meals on Wheels folks to utilize our paramedics to try to reach down into the community and assist them with some of the shut-ins that aren't able to get out and do vaccine. This has all just evolved in the last couple of days and early in the planning phase, but we're very hopeful we're going to be able to help them with that mission. So with that, I'll say thank you and take any questions that you may have.
Brian,
Thank you, Chief. Counsel?
Is on the information we share with the health department for vaccination, the mass vaccination sites.
Oh, yes, the federal sites, Manager? Yes, sir, the manager's referencing. Also in the works right now, we are coordinating with the regional health department and the state health department, along with the Department of Emergency Management, to submit a resource request for 4 community vaccination centers, I believe is the keyword or the buzzword that they're using for those. And what they will essentially be is we're going to request 2, I believe it's type 3 vaccination clinics, which will be pretty much a turnkey operation that will come into here with a capacity of doing 1,000 vaccines per day for up to 3 months. So we're looking at a couple of the hotel facilities in Suffolk to do 2 of those, the type 3s, which I said are 1,000 vaccines per day, 5 days a week for multiple months. And we've also requested 2 type 4 events, which are scaled to 250 vaccines per day. Smaller footprint allows us to get deeper into the community, perhaps use a church, perhaps use a rec center to conduct those sites. A little bit of limited information on that right now. That's all evolving, but we have made that request and are working through the process with the state on that.
Thank you, Chief. Questions or comments?
Mayor, if I could add one more
Sure.
item to that, and on what Brian was just saying, and as we looked at the mass, the type 3, we looked north and south on that for those facilities. So 1 south, 1 north. So it goes to some of the questions that you all had a few minutes ago.
Thank you. Councilman Fawcett?
Just a couple of things. Thanks, Chief, for coming out tonight. Also, Dr. James, she's already gone, but we appreciate her every time she comes out. I want to give credit to Western Tidewater Clinic, Will Drew and his crew for doing an extraordinary job at these sites, getting them up and running. There may be some relief coming to that through a means that I can't really disclose at this point that you're almost alluding to that is possibly coming in a roundabout way. I don't want to disclose it yet because I'm involved with it a little bit. But, I want to thank your paramedics for going out there because, that was my whole thing. If you remember a few weeks ago, I was talking about these paramedics, why are we not using them? And I think you got a good idea, and I appreciate all the men and women in the department for sure, but they can probably reach down to some of these small places like you're talking about, Meals on Wheels, some of these people that are closed in. And I think some of the council members alluded to like Whaleyville Community Center and some of those things, and I think that's a viable thing to do. And I know that there's on the horizon a couple of mass operational sites that is being put together again. I'm not going to go any detail to it, but there is something on the horizon that I do know and am aware of that is going to come to light. It's going to help the community, not just here, but throughout Virginia. So, again, I appreciate everybody and what they're doing. We've certainly, I think the mayor alluded to it, We've really come a long way in a few weeks, and most everybody up here has probably had at least 1 or 2 doses ourselves, and if not, they're getting close. And it's a great thing, and hopefully we're going to see some things happening here as we go, and the numbers keep falling. I think that's just where we're headed, and I think it's going to be great. So anyway, I appreciate it tonight. Pass on to all the paramedics and those folks. I'm not to discount those folks that are out there in the clinics that, like at the Hilton yesterday, Bayside. I mean, that's a massive undertaking to push out a couple thousand shots. That's a big deal. So I appreciate all those and some of those are volunteers that are doing those shots, from what I understand too, that are coming in. So, we owe a gratitude, a debt to those people for stepping up and giving their time to our communities and the communities they're working with to get these shots out. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do appreciate everything that you all are doing, and the numbers, I'm glad to see the numbers are going down on the calls. And you might not be able to answer this, but it was something I thought of after Dr. James left. I know that the president has said that by end of April, he will have enough shots for all adults. But I'm just concerned about where we're going to get, how we lining up to have people to administer those shots once they come out, because it looks like that could be some of the problem. And I don't know what we are doing here in the area with the health department to try to get these type of people that will be able to do that. Can you comment on that if you have it?
Yes, sir, I can. Actually, what I just mentioned a moment ago with those teams that we are requesting from the state, that is sort of to that end, to address that. Like I said, the thought or the plan is once we establish these, for example, the type 3 teams, if there's one up north and there's one down here, each of those will be doing upwards of 1,000 vaccines a day for 5 days a week, or maybe 7 days a week. We've been told to plan to hold on to them for 3 months initially. So I think that's, and we have the opportunity to request a larger group, if you will, as well. If the weather becomes nicer and the opportunity presents itself, and we think that perhaps the Peanut Fest site or something like that and a drive-through clinic would work for what we're trying to do here in Suffolk and is needed, we could certainly look at that and scale this to our needs.
Well, that is great, because that was one of my concerns with it. They're saying they're going to have the vaccine, so now how are we going to be able to get people to administer those out into the community? So that is great news. So I would like to also say that every place that I've seen that was doing it in Suffolk, the vaccine that is, that they have had a lot of good support from police departments and volunteers to get out there and really work to help make this happen. And I cannot thank those people enough for what they're doing. And I know Mr. Drew from the health department, he's catching the devil trying to make sure that people want him to do stuff that he just don't have the vaccine to do. And they're coming to him saying, well, I need more and more and more. But the state is the one to send those down, right? We requested, or they tell you how many you can get?
The amount of vaccine?
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's controlled between the local health district, the regional health district, and the state. So, I can tell the local health district what we want to try to do, and they can submit the request. But if I understand the process, they submit a request weekly for the planned out clinics that they have for the upcoming week.
When is our next one that's going to be here, where it's going to be Friday at the health department?
Vice Mayor, I'm not sure which day he puts that order in. So I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Fawcett?
One last thing you just alluded to that I can pretty much almost with certainty say it's going to be a 7-day-a-week operation. I can tell you that much.
Thank you, Chief. No other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, that concludes our special presentations. We will now move to removal of the consent agenda items and adoption of the agenda. There are no items on the consent agenda. Therefore, a motion to adopt the entire agenda as presented would be appropriate at this time. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Councilman Fawcett first, Councilman Goldberg second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett. Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams. Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, there are no items on the consent agenda, so therefore we will move to public hearings. Our first public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the interim city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Arn Free Fall Solutions LLC for box hangar number 7 at the Suffolk Executive Airport. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, we have the next 3 public hearings are going to be dealing with the similar items here with the hangar lease and property lease at our Suffolk Executive Airport. Mr. Kevin Hughes, Interim Deputy City Manager, will give the overview for all 3. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. So I want to walk you through the first public hearing. On the screen and before you is an ordinance to go under contract with the lease for the city of Suffolk with Arnie Free Fall Solutions. On your screen, this is hangar number 7. This is due west of the terminal building, interior to the airport, shown on the smaller map there by the star, and then the larger photo there. So it's approximately 11,600 square feet. This lease would include what you see here on site and as designated on the visual and in the lease as well. It's important to note that the current occupant is Arnie Free Fall Solutions. This is basically Skydive Suffolk. This is their location for their military training operation here at Box Hangar 7. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have following the public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address and will receive 3 minutes to offer their comments.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Mr. Mayor, the Vice Mayors, members of the council, John Babineau. I'm the attorney for Arnie Free Fall as well as Skydive Suffolk. I really don't have anything to add other than I would ask that you adopt and authorize the city manager, interim city manager, to enter into each of these lease agreements, which are included on your agenda in 8, 9, and 10. Laura Manthe, who is the proprietor, and owns the companies that are subject to the lease agreements, has been operating out at the Suffolk Executive Airport now for some period of time. She has a very significant operation, not only community skydiving, but also brings in the military to the airport and into the city of Suffolk. Helps with the concessions out there, also has lots of takeoff and landings, which equal to FAA dollars that come to the city. So there are a lot of benefits other than just the lease that come by virtue of the operation. There are very few operators in the United States, quite frankly, that are able to provide the kind of training that Arnie Aviation is able to try to provide to the military. It's primarily provided to the Navy, but there's also Army Special Forces and Air Force and others that from time to time come out and train, and it allows our, as we dub them, our war fighters to be able to train in a situation where that's a very controlled environment for them, and they're not able to replicate it within the military community, surprisingly enough. So this is a great, if you will, operation. It's good for the city of Suffolk. There's been some very good news articles that have been written in the Suffolk News Herald most recently, and others. So I would ask on behalf of Laura Manthe and Arnie Aviation and Skydive Suffolk that you authorize these leases.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next speaker, please. Have any more speakers? No. Thank you, Officer Meston.
Are you speaking on this? No.
Hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. An ordinance is presented for council's consideration. The motion would be in order.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Johnson
Yeah,
first.
move for approval?
Councilman Goldberg second. Is there any discussion of the motion?
I'd like to make a brief comment on
Go ahead,
behalf of the
Councilman.
motion.
Councilman Fawcett.
Looking at all three of these on the public hearing tonight, it's very evident to me that we, embrace this, this company to come in and continue to do business at the executive airport. It enhances our airport and the military, and I would do nothing but put my full support behind it. I think it's a benefit to the city of Suffolk to have it here, so I thank him for bringing it forward. Appreciate it.
Discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Dooman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, our next public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the interim city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Skydive Suffolk Training Center, LLC, for box hangar number 9 at the Suffolk Executive Airport. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Kevin Hughes will also provide us a review.
So, this is number 2. This is also would be occupied by Skydive Suffolk. Technically, this is, and on your screen, this is box hangar number 9. This is an 8,000 square foot hangar and office building to the south here at the airport. It's currently occupied by Skydive Suffolk Training Center, mainly used as their recreational operations. And as you can see in your package, we're looking to go under contract again with Skydive Suffolk Training Center at the airport. I'm happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address, and will receive 3 minutes to offer their comment.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Once again, John Babineau, 150 Bush Street, Suite 601, and that's Norfolk, Virginia. I'm counsel for Skydive Suffolk Training Center, LLC. I think I've already made all the comments that I need to. I won't take up any more of your time. I just ask you authorize the interim city manager to enter into these leases with my client, Skydive Suffolk Training Center, LLC. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Any other additional speakers? Hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. An ordinance has been presented for council's consideration. A motion is in order. Pleasure of council. Councilman Fawcett.
Move to approve.
Move for approval. A second by Councilman Goldberg. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Dooman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, and our last public hearing is an ordinance authorizing the interim city manager into a ground lease agreement with Skydive Suffolk Training Center, LLC, concerning plus or minus 1.75 acres adjacent to box hangar number 9 at the Suffolk Executive Airport. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hughes will provide the overview on item 10 here.
Your final public hearing on this matter is a little less than 2-acre site. What we're proposing here is a ground lease to Skydive Suffolk Training Center. This will essentially house some temporary structures, some trailers to help with some training, some parachute packing, and some other related operations to Skydive. So it'll complement what they have going on next door that you just voted on at Hangar 9. I'm happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address and will receive 3 minutes to offer their comments.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address? You get you to stay up there, save a lot of steps.
Yes, sir. Me again. Just want to, again, just reiterate how good this business is, and it's good for Suffolk. And I would just ask that you authorize the city manager to be also to enter into this lease. Part of what is necessary is this extra space because they've put some classrooms there. When they get the government contracts, they keep changing and requiring additional, if you will, elements that are necessary to fulfill the contractual terms. One of them is they have to have a certain amount of space available for students separate from the hangar space. So this provides for that, also provides for a place where there can be storage and packing of parachutes as was indicated. So all three of these, if you will, leases are integral to the business. So we would ask that this also be authorized. Thank you.
Are there any additional speakers?
Yes, sir.
Well, hearing no additional speakers, this public hearing is now closed. An ordinance has been presented for council's consideration, and a motion would be in order. Councilman Johnson, Goldberg, Councilman Goldberg, thank you.
Move for approval.
And a second from Councilman Williams. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to ordinances. We have an ordinance, an amended and restated ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish an automobile auction, automobile graveyard, and automobile storage yard on property located at Old Somerton Road, zoning map 44, parcels 92A, 92D, and 94. Account numbers 151214000, 153665900, and 151438000. Conditional use permit 2020-4. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. David Hanley, Director of Planning and Community Development, will give the overview of this topic.
Mr. City Manager and Mayor and Vice Mayor and members of City Council, for those of you who were on council last August, you may remember this one. This was an active discussion and changing conditions of this request on the fly that night. And condition number 8, as presented in the current ordinance, was added to that night as part of that hearing for this conditional use. In the wording, it had all vehicles, and the concern that's been expressed to me by the recipient of this conditional use is a concern that it may be interpreted that all vehicles should be interpreted as any individual that's there longer than 180 days is the trigger. And that's the presentation for the item that is before you tonight, is that change in that ordinance.
I can make a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Approval, do I have a second? Councilman Williams with a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, there are no resolutions this evening, no staff reports this evening. We have a motion to schedule a city council work session for Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 4 p.m. unless canceled. A motion's in order.
So move.
Councilman Goldberg, Councilman Johnson with a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Mayor Dooman.
Yes.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers at this time?
Yes, Mayor Dooman.
Would you-
Each person participating on the item of business entitled non-agenda speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government and shall be permitted 5 minutes for the purpose of presenting his or her matter. Speakers appearing before city council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Our first speaker is Shauna Goodman, 5113 Queen Street, Chesapeake, Virginia, representing SELF regarding false labeling of paper roads. Is Ms. Goodman, Shauna Goodman, present?
Give us about 2 minutes.
Officer Mess, we get a Shauna present? Okay.
William Horner, 119 Brewer Avenue, representing South regarding flooding on Brewer Avenue and First Street.
Good evening, Mayor, Manager, City Council. My name is Bill Horner. I live at 119 Brewer Avenue. And basically, I just want to make a statement that I've been there for about 20 years, and that I have noticed over the past year and a half that there's plenty of water that comes from First Street, and after a rain or even a very hard rain, I have noticed, because I've gone there myself, that I see a lot of standing water in all the driveways that are there, and that it doesn't have nowhere to go. And, you know, and I've noticed over the past year and a half it has gotten worse because it comes through all the one or two driveways at the end of that street, and it comes down through their backyard, and then it starts to come into my yard, and it just starts to shoot down into my property. And I know the officer said that we don't have places to put pictures at and things, but I have plenty of pictures, and I have signatures. Oh, sorry. I have all the signatures from First Street that live on there, and they said absolutely. Sometimes they could be up to 14 inches of water in their driveways on First Street. And sometimes I've even been by there one time about a year ago where I thought it was actually going to go in their house. And there's no drainage on that street, on First Street, where it has to go all the way to Broad Street. It has to go all the way down to Second Street, make a right, and come all the way down into Brewer at the corner there. That is the closest drainage where that water will travel to go all the way down to the end of, like, my street, where Second Avenue is. And my whole yard is a swamp now. And my next door neighbor, his is like 8-9 inches on over there. And there's times when I've seen it on Second Street. Some of them are getting really bad there. And I'm just asking y'all to really, I've called the city manager, the previous one, about a month and a half ago. And I never really heard anything. And I called called one or two other times. And he hasn't, the gentleman here hasn't maybe gotten it, or maybe he has, and he's checking into it right now. And so I just ask you all to check into it for me. I've been there for 20 years. I've never really had a problem. And now over the past year and a half, it just seems like, I don't know if it's the drainage or what, the places are sinking over there. I really don't know. But it's really getting bad in my backyard. And I have a dog, and sometimes it can be up to 7 to 8 inches. And I just really ask you to take a look at it, because it's really bad there on First Street. And if there's any way that you have my name and where I live, and that you can please get back with me. And I don't know how long it would take, but I know how things sometimes can take with the city at different times on certain situations. So hopefully I can give you maybe a month or so, and then you can maybe get back with me to kind of let me know what's your procedure of taking care of this situation, because I really do love the area, and I like it. So I thank you very much for your time and listening very much. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Douglas Branch, 307 Lita Avenue, representing self regarding transparency of the Suffolk School Board.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are y'all doing today? Nothing to say? Okay. I'm a taxpayer. The Suffolk School Board budget, I'd like to see transparency. I want to know where my money's going. For the Suffolk School Board to tell teachers that they need to provide their own PPE, that's ridiculous. And I do a lot of commercial work. My customers want to know where their money's going. I'm a customer. I'm a taxpayer. I paid for it. I want to know where my money's going. Thank you very much.
Janet McKinney, 2804 Lake Cahoon Point, representing self regarding Suffolk School Board budget.
Touch the podium. Cool. Good evening. Pardon me just a moment while I find my spot. Suffolk Public Schools has a proposed budget for the fiscal year of 2021-22 in the amount of approximately $193 million. Therefore, the school board has a fiduciary responsibility to our school children in the value of $193 million. Such a fiduciary duty demands transparency and accountability. Line item budgeting will assure transparency and accountability of the board to the children they serve. Virginia Code Section 15.2-2405 governs localities and their budgets and states that itemization shall be a part thereof. If line item budgeting shall be included in the city's budget, why shouldn't the council likewise require itemization by the school board? While there are some breakout within the proposed budget, many items are vague. Dues and subscriptions, materials and supplies, and the ubiquitous school allocations. Honestly, isn't the vast majority of that $193 million budget school allocations? But specifically, what dues, what subscriptions, what materials, what supplies? Virginia Code Section 22.1, 89.3 authorizes the school board to contract for the issuance of credit cards and to receive revenue therefrom. Specifically, that revenue goes to the city and is then placed in a fund to be appropriated to the school board. However, the proposed school board budget does not specifically identify this revenue, and more importantly, the budget does not specifically address the debt that is carried by those credit cards. Code Section 22.193 mandates that upon approval of the budget, the school divisions shall publish the approved annual budget in line item form. So, if the school board must publish their budget after it's approved in a line item form, why aren't they submitting a budget to be approved that's in a line item form? It is within the authority of the city council to require a line item budget from the school board. The school board, again, has a $193 million fiduciary responsibility to the children of Suffolk and should be wholly transparent and accountable thereto. Thank you.
Sherry Story, 4429 Cherokee Drive, representing self, regarding fully funded classrooms.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor. I reside at 4429 Cherokee Drive. My husband and I pay taxes. First and foremost, I'm a citizen of Suffolk, and I'm a taxpayer of Suffolk. And I know that you know me as a school board member, and I know there's a fine line there. But I feel that, as was indicated recently in a recent court appearance, that I was reminded that I don't lose my citizens' rights because I chose and volunteered to run for public service. So I'm here speaking as a citizen, and I'm speaking for my husband and I, who pay a fair amount of taxes. And every year since I came to as a teacher, and it continues, teachers are not being given the money for their classroom needs. And it happened to me, and it continues to happen. And the teachers, it's in the classroom, is where the learning is going on. And they're not being supplied with classroom needs. Now, we heard a study that the number of students hasn't increased, but how much has our budget increased? And I am absolutely for fully funding the district. As a taxpayer, I'm for it. But I'm also for classrooms being fully funded. And so I speak on behalf of my husband and I, and we would like knowing that our tax dollars are going to where the learning is taking place, in the classroom. We want teachers to feel good that they're being supported by their city, in that they don't have to beg, they don't have to put out wish lists as if they are going to Santa Claus. That is humiliating. It's not a wish list, it's a need list. There are things that are needed for art, for music, rosin for bows. All of that needs to be provided to our students. It's important. And where I live, there's also former teachers in that area, in the area of Russell's Point. And they too, they also, when we get together and we have barbecues, they remember that they had to put out so much money for classroom needs. And then there are people there who are current teachers, and we have a lot of retired folk. They need to know that their tax dollars are really supporting kids in the classroom. So I'm speaking, again, as a citizen. I am not speaking for the school board. I am not speaking as a school board member. I am speaking for taxpayers and for my husband and I as a taxpayer. We need somehow, we've been here a lot of years, And this continues to be a problem. And as taxpayers, if my representatives, city council people can help in any way to try to see that our classrooms are fully funded, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Brianne Eilenberg, 3420 Archer's Mill Road, representing self, regarding line item budget.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I thank you for affording me the time to speak to you about a very important matter, line item budgeting. Line item budgeting is still the most widely used approach in many organizations, including schools. It intensifies control and allows the accumulation of expenditure data at each level. However, the Suffolk Public School Board is not using this as their best practice. Line item budgets will help schools understand its income and if it is sufficient to cover all expenses. It makes it possible to know when items exceed the budget or if it comes in under budget. It is not rocket science by any means. Line item budgets are relatively simple to create, figure out, and interpret. It's basic data entry. For far too long, we have heard that the Suffolk Public Schools are fully funded. However, classrooms are not fully funded. All too many times, teachers are told that there is not enough money in the budget to provide the basic classroom needs that should be accounted for and provided by the school through a proper line item budget. Our teachers and students are suffering from lack of proper funding. Every year, teachers pay out of pocket because they do not know ahead of time what can and cannot be funded. Parents, too, are asked to provide certain items that clearly should be supplied by the schools. It's no wonder why so many parents are deciding to homeschool their children or make sacrifices to pay for education by enrolling them in private schools. I am one of those parents. I didn't choose to remove my children because of the teachers. The teachers in Suffolk Public Schools are wonderful. They are doing the best they can with limited funds, if any, that they are given. I chose to remove my children because I didn't feel that the school board is capable of providing classrooms with the tools and resources for my children that they need to be successful in society with. Their future is important to me, and it should be important to the school board as well. Not every family has the opportunity to choose private school, and many cannot homeschool for a variety of reasons. Every year, there is a surplus of money that is not used and is to be returned. There is no excuse with the amount of money that is returned at the end of the school year that teachers and even parents should have to come out of pocket to provide for things such as Clorox wipes, amongst other things, and tissues. The lack of transparency within the school board is appalling. They can do better. Our children deserve better. We can make the Suffolk Public School District the district that parents will move to for their children's education. It's possible. I ask you on the council and those on the board, the school board, are you truly okay with treading water on our children's future? These children will one day grow up, and some of them will become our future city council members, school board members, delegates, senators, lawyers, doctors, and amongst other things. Do you truly believe that we are giving them the best resources to fulfill their dreams? Or are we setting them up for failure because they feel so lost in a school system that is letting them down and leaving them feeling hopeless and left behind? It doesn't have to be this way. The money is there. We parents, teachers, and taxpayers of Suffolk are tired of seeing our children, nieces and nephews, and grandchildren struggle because the school board can't get it together. They would rather fight amongst themselves instead of fighting for our children. They would rather waste money on foolish things instead of fully funding our classrooms. The current vague budget categories do not show how much money gets from general allocation to specific expenditures. Even specific cost lines graded across the division keep the public from knowing how much gets to particular classrooms. I would love to see a proper line item budget broken down by individual schools available online so that parents and taxpayers can access the budget when it is passed. I would also like to see an online monthly line item budget broken down by individual schools showing funds that have been spent and unspent monthly. As a taxpayer and aunt, I have every right to know where my money is going to and how it is being spent. Why is it so hard to be accountable and transparent? There are other schools in Virginia and in the country that have a budget to brag about. Why can't Suffolk Public Schools have that too? City Council, as the checkbook of our city treasury, you must demand accounting that affords accountability. You must demand a line item cost account code budget by individual school. I know that Suffolk can do better, and you know it too, and it's time that we make the children of Suffolk a priority. Thank you for your time.
John Lee, 1481 Cedar Creek Lane, representing self, regarding transparency of Suffolk School Board budget.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is John Lee. I live at 1481 Cedar Creek Lane in Suffolk, out in Chuckatuck. We've been in Suffolk for about 20 years, moved here from Portsmouth. And I'm here tonight on behalf of myself, my wife, and many people in our neighborhood to demand that the City Council demand that the school board provide line item cost accounting code budget by individual schools. There's not much more to say. The speaker before me said it all, and I hope you listen to that. The school board has ignored citizens and even school board members for way too long. Now it falls on you to make sure that our taxpayers and our tax money is spent the way it should be, and it's well spent, and we get our money's worth from our schools. So I ask you to get a hold of the school board and demand that they start budgeting so people can understand it. I couldn't add much more. The lady before me said it all. That's all that needs to be said. Please act on that. Thank you.
Dawn Bachman, 4000 Bell Harbor Circle, representing self, regarding school board budget transparency.
Dear City Council members, good evening. How are you doing tonight? I wanted to come to you. I am representing local teachers and parents and citizens of Suffolk. We apparently have upset our superintendent over asking for transparency in the school board budget in a video that everybody's been watching on social media. I'd like to talk to you about our local tax dollars going to the school board. The school board does not account for their expenditures with specific detail. And so what is upsetting me is what is also upsetting me is their disregard and their disrespect for the transparency laws, using our tax dollars in ridiculous and unfounded lawsuits, renaming schools and fighting against transparency laws. I would like to ask you to hold our school board accountable. I read this week that the Suffolk School Board has over $193 million budget, yet teachers, and this has been going on for years and years, teachers always give the kids a list of school supplies to help with the school year. Parents are asked to purchase basic classroom supplies. Teachers use their own wages to purchase supplies and tools to enhance the education of their students, all because teachers do not know how much money their classrooms have been allotted before the school year begins. There is no line item budget, and I would like to see our city council members hold the school board accountable to have a line item budget. We would like to demand a line item budget, cost account code budget at each school level, because we all want a better local government. The spending is difficult to track. Teachers should not be denied when requesting financial help from the school board when money has already been allocated. The public should know how much each school, down to the classroom, how much money has been allocated to them. The spending must be specific. Teachers need to know what their school year budget is for the classrooms before the school term begins. And we'd like to hold the school board accountable, and please question their reckless spending. We want a better local government here in Suffolk. We want the best for our teachers and our school children. We can achieve this with transparency, accountability, and integrity within our school board. Thank you. Have a good night.
Deborah Wallstrom, 137 Pitch Kettle Point Circle, representing self regarding school division budget.
I need to put my glasses on. Good evening, Mayor Duman and Vice Mayor Bennett and all the rest of the honorable councilmen and women aboard this evening. My name is Deborah Wallstrom at 137 Pitch Kettle Point Circle. And tonight, what I'd like to do is to share some concept building thoughts with you to add to the conversation that so many of our citizens have come to you with in terms of a line item budget. And I'm wondering if I'm allowed to let you have one of these while I'm working. Okay. Okay. I did not realize that. So I'll talk through a few things, but it will be a challenge without you being able to have the visuals with you, because it's kind of technical stuff. So basically, there are three items or three areas where citizens, anybody trying to hold the school board accountable, themselves, holding themselves accountable, need a detailed line item budget. And I want to throw in that detailed line item budget. The board really does, the school district does already have a line item budget, but it's not to the detail that is needed to ask questions and hold people accountable, to say, you know, what it comes with that fund. So we're looking for, in division level projects especially, that's like if you have to adopt new textbooks, instead of putting $1 million for textbooks, you actually say, here's what that $1 million buys. For social studies or history, it might be for having teachers come together in a committee and work. It might be purchasing the textbooks. It might be having a couple of teachers, maybe one from each borough or whatever, go through and pilot the textbook that they have chosen. So within that $1 million piece, you cannot hold the board accountable. I cannot hold the board accountable if it just says $1 million for textbooks. And that was one of the items from the CARES funding that showed up, I think just last meeting or the meeting before, in terms of working on the budget and working on the finances. So division level projects and having visibility to what our money buys is something that I would want. Also, school level departments. School level departments would be like, at the elementary level, it'd be like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. At the middle and high school level, it would be things like the English team, the social studies team, the math team, and on and on. So right now, if you look at a budget, you'll see band gets this amount of money. But you don't know what they're spending the money on. We can't tell what that's being spent on. Is it music? Is it uniforms? Is it music stands? Is it to purchase a license to ensure that the students have the opportunity to go to regional competitions? There is nothing in there that tells us what that is for. And again, that's something that's very important for holding a board accountable. And then the next one, and I know you've heard this from the other speakers, and it's so important, I want to make sure to highlight it, is having classroom level funding for teachers. Having an allotment, it's part of the school allotment, that there's a chunk of money that goes toward classrooms. And what that means for teachers, and other people may have other suggestions, this is just one, would be that each school, for example, Kings Fork High School has about 110 teachers. So we would expect to see in the detailed budget process that 110 teachers will each receive $250 for classroom stuff during the course of the year. Could even be higher than that. Classroom materials and supplies are hugely expensive, and it's really problematic for teachers. So those three things, getting more detail, especially on the division level projects, the school level allotments, and then
that concludes the time allocated for the speaker, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you tonight, and we do appreciate the good work you do on behalf of the citizens. Thank you.
George Mears, 4304 Ainsley Court South, representing Self regarding line item budget for Suffolk Public Schools.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, city manager, and all supporters of effective Suffolk Public Schools. My name is George Mears. I live at 4304 Ainsley Court South in Chuckatuck. I've come here tonight to convince each council member to insist on receiving a copy of the proposed total and line item budget for each public school in your respective boroughs, and to demand that you be given copies of these proposed budgets to review before Dr. Gordon presents his total budget request for the next school year to this council. It stretches logic to believe that these school-specific budgets don't already exist before an overall Suffolk City budget can be compiled and put together. Yet I have doubts whether the individual school principals ever see the budgets for the schools that they are hired to lead. I hear too many complaints from teachers who tell us that every time they put in a request for additional funds to meet a need, they get the same answers back from each principal. Sorry, but there's no money, no additional money in the budget. Each council member should know the amount of funding being allocated for teacher salaries, classrooms, student needs, and specific planned building repairs and upgrades versus the funding diverted for each school's administration, transportation, non-teaching staff, food services, sports, student non-class activities, insurance bonuses, meetings, workshops, and non-student staff training. Let me go back a second. I had two 23-year careers before I retired a couple of years ago. And for the first, I was a naval officer, an aircraft squadron commander, and an aircraft carrier department head. And the second, I was an engineer and a project manager. I have a master's in environmental engineering and an MBA in management. I got 2/3 of the way through a master's in education after leaving the Navy because I was considering teaching as a second career before I realized that I was never going to be able to make a positive difference in a public school system as it's set up from the inside. It's going to take outside help. You gentlemen, ladies, are the outside help. In any operational military organization, the most effective leaders focus on a performance measure that we call a tooth-to-tail ratio. The tooth is a part of the ratio that can inflict damage on the enemy. That's the troops, the weapons and munitions, the clothing, the equipment, the vehicles, jets, and boats. Applying that resource efficiency concept to a school system, the tooth component of the ratio would include spending on the students, teachers' assistants, techs, computers, and classrooms. In the military, the tail consists of the supporting staff and the administration, the R&D, the supply chain, the storage, the distribution networks, and non-operational operations that support the warfighters but don't actually exist to engage the enemy. The educational equivalent to the tail would include the school administrators and program support staff, the counselors, the school buildings, the grounds, the sports programs and equipment, buses, libraries, librarians, maintenance and food staff, resource people, basically all those expenses that exist to support the education mission but don't have anything to do with teaching students in the classroom. The higher the percentage of the school budget that can be focused on the tooth component of this ratio, the higher the odds are that the particular school will serve the students, the parents, the taxpayers, and the Suffolk community. I would urge each council member to track the tooth-to-tail ratio for each public school in your respective boroughs. It shouldn't be hard if the superintendent and the school board doesn't stonewall you or continue to consider legitimate FOIA requests for information that should already be public to be weaponizing the FOIA process, as our school board chairman recently claimed. Councilmember Ward and Goldberg have 2 public schools in their boroughs. Councilmember Barlow has 4. All the other council members have 3 public schools. And I believe each of you should be tracking the performance of those schools, since public school spending represents at least half of Suffolk's total city budget. And I would argue that focusing your attention on individual school performance, council members will be focusing on the top priority of your constituents, their children. I ask you to recognize that neither the public school administrations nor the teachers' unions consider the students, the parents, or the taxpayers to be their customers. And the teachers' unions proudly claim that they represent nobody but the teachers. Public school officials only consider the politicians who make decisions on school funding to be their real customers. And that's why they come to you each year with full court press and badger you until they get their budget approved. I would ask our council members to take it upon themselves to treat Suffolk students and parents as customers by looking out for the proper education of students. And one final point, I'd like to ask a rhetorical question. What is the all too common goal of so many teachers in a public school system? It is to get the hell out of the classroom as soon as possible and into school administration. Why? Because that's where the higher salaries and the career stability are. Frankly, this reality creates a perverse economic incentive that no school system can afford. The rewards for teachers remaining in the classroom need to be increased and focusing more resources on teachers, classrooms, and students through the use of line item budget by schools and focusing on the tooth-to-tail ratio.
That concludes the time allocated for the speaker, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Elizabeth Horn, 133 Niblett Circle, representing self regarding alarm fee bill. Elizabeth Horn.
Will do, thank you. I debate with these masks. As stated, my name is Elizabeth Horn, and I reside at 133 Niblett. Good evening, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Bennett, and City Council. I am here to ask consideration on a bill that says each year that I have to pay to the city of Suffolk for an alarm program. I have lived in the city of Suffolk for 17 years. My husband and I moved here 17 years ago. He is deceased. I purchased a security alarm system after my husband died. I have made one mistake with that alarm system where I thought I had turned it off and it was still on. The police came, but every year I get a $10 bill from the city of Suffolk for the alarm system coming on one time. Now, I have called the Suffolk Police Department. They have stated that I have made 3 mistakes where I've called them. I keep good records. I'm very organized. I've only called them, I've only made 1 mistake since the alarm system was installed. So I'm here to ask a small fee of considering my bill that comes once a year that I have to pay for an alarm system to the city of Suffolk for the one time my alarm system went off. I pay taxes every year. And of course, I am a senior citizen. I don't think that I need to pay each year because the alarm system went off one time. Now, I did call the police department. They said they serviced me 3 times. I keep good records, excellent records if you want to know the truth. And I did not make 3 mistakes. I've only made 1. And so I wanted someone, and I did check with the police department, to look at this bill. I've been paying it now for 11 years, and I wanted you to reconsider and also get back with me and answer the question, why should I pay this bill every year for a service that I do not receive? I don't mind paying for any services. My taxes, personal property, car tax is fine. But I don't need to pay for things that I have not ordered or that the service is not been given me. So I wanted someone to look at this bill and then check with me at a later date. And I'm like someone else, a month, fine. I can take 2 months, because guess what? The bill came last month. I went on and paid it. So I got a whole nother year for them to send me another bill. So you can take at least 60 days to get back with me, because I know how important schools are. But I would like for you to consider this. I can leave this with someone, or you can call me later. My phone number and my address is at your leisure. But I would like for someone to tell me, why do I have to pay when I've only had the police department to come out one time? Any questions? Thank you.
Mavis Miltier Penn, 315 West Constance Road, representing self regarding CSX Railway.
I'm right here. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Bennett, and councilmen and councilwomen. I'd like to say good evening. As given my address, I am a resident of the Princess Place condominium area, which those who know Suffolk, we're located directly next to the Elsa Lodge here in Suffolk. I'm asking for your partnership as it relates to the CSX Railway, specifically at the crossing at 623-791L. I am a member of the Suffolk Bureau Era, and I'm asking for your partnership as we look at the overall sounds of the train as well as the vibration. So approximately about a month and a half ago, about 5 o'clock in the morning, my home laboratory began to shake. And I was starting to think that 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe it's an earthquake. But actually, it was a train that went by the entire community. I am the previous president of the Homeowners Association, so I started to receive calls from some of the residents about this vibration as well. What I asked some of the residents from Princess Place to do is to start to begin a journal of when they have noticed different types of whether sounds or vibrations that's going on in our community so that we can be able to compare our notes overall. But I took it a little bit further. I also talked to some residents that's a part of the Main Street Apartments that's across from the old Burrasine Recreation Area with the Cultural Arts Center, as well as I spoke to some of the residents that's a part of the Jefferson School lofts. So if you hear about those three different areas, again, Jefferson School lofts, the Main Street Apartments, and then the Prentice Place condos, those three buildings were built at different times. So it's not just the new homes that are having problems. All three of those areas are having problems with their walls cracking, with their ceilings having cracks in there. So we are really, really concerned about the overall structure of our homes that we have. So basically, I've done a little research already, and I realized just based on the speed of trains, they should be going between 20 to 80 miles per hour. I'm not sure there's a difference between passenger trains versus freight trains, but this is some of the things I want to be able to partner with you on to say, is anyone checking to see what speed are the trains going in? Now, realistically, I'm a businesswoman myself, and I realize that the trains are a part of a business that need to get from point A to point B within an allotted amount of time. But something is causing the additional vibration to happen to our homes. So there are things that I'm asking for your partnership to work with me with CSX Railway to come up with solutions, things such as a rail boots. Those are things that can help with the noise as well as the vibration. Other things is the crossing tie pads. So there's different solutions that are out there that can be able to support those almost 100 different homes in those three communities that I just spoke about. Again, Princess Place condos, Jefferson School lofts, and also the Main Street Apartments. I've given my information to the Ms. Erica, my phone number, my email address. I would love to be able to partner with you, along with there are some other residents that are here with me representing as well from those three different communities. We want to sit down, we want to talk, we want to be able to share our concerns with the railroad company and work on a solution together. Again, three different kinds of homes being built at different times, but we want to be able to work on this together to decrease some of the vibration in our homes, but also the structure of our homes as well. I look forward to being able to hear from you very soon. I'm looking forward to working with you, Councilman Goldberg. Thank you.
Karen Hurd, 1024 Centerbrook Lane, representing self regarding line item budget for Suffolk Public Schools.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Bennett, City Council. My name is Karen Hurd, and hear about the line item budget for the school board. The school board wants to tell us that, quote, having 4,000 lines in a budget is the same as a line item budget. Now, just how stupid does the school board think we really are? Dr. Judith Buck, recently said in an editorial published in the Suffolk News Herald that $1 million budgets are hard for the public to understand. The 21-page PowerPoint that was published by Suffolk Public Schools only revealed that it is the school board itself which is unclear about what a line item budget is. Now, let me make it simple for Dr. Brooks-Buck and Dr. Gordon and other members of the Suffolk Public School Board. I'll be straight to the point, since Dr. Gordon has already accused people like me, parents, taxpayers, teachers, and members of the public of causing drama. because we are demanding that the Suffolk Public Schools do their job as public servants and be transparent in its budget. So here's what we want and would ask the Suffolk City Council to support. A line item budget with cost code accounting as recommended by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Best accounting practices, incidentally, are even required in the Suffolk City Charter. So in the spirit of clear communication, I will define terms. Budget means forecast, not funded. We, the public, know the difference between forecast, funded, and spent. We want a line item budget so that anyone, including teachers, can look up on the public school website the amount of money allocated to each school and to each department and or grade in that school at the classroom level. So imagine, if you will, you go online, you download the budget, you look up Pioneer Elementary, second grade, and see that each classroom gets X amount of dollars. Simple, to the point, transparent, no drama. With the line item cost accounting code budget, teachers, parents, and the public know exactly what is allocated to each classroom. The Suffolk City Council would know. The Suffolk Public School Board would know. There would be far fewer budget season distractions, as Dr. Brooks Buck likes to call them, and more focus at the Suffolk Public School System where it belongs, educating students. And because a budget like this would be easily accessible on the website, think of all the time and cost savings since fewer FOIA requests would need to be made. And I'll bet that the savings on Suffolk Public School Board's legal bills alone would be enormous. And I would call that a win-win. Thank you very much.
Alex Sittham, 827 General Pickett Drive, representing Self, regarding school board budget transparency.
Good evening. My name is Alex Stidham. I reside at 827 General Pickett Drive. I have for all 20 years of my life here in Suffolk. And tonight I'm a concerned citizen who felt it was my civic duty to come and speak up about accountability and transparency in our public school. Every year, especially since I've gotten into the workforce, it seems like more and more money is taken out of my paycheck, especially by state taxes. But this money is either wasted or poorly spent by our public school system. Despite spending far more than most school districts in our state, the students seem to be the last concern of the school board and the local government. Our students test in the bottom half of all Virginia school districts. They score under the state average in math proficiency, reading proficiency, and our district falls behind the state average in graduation rate. Is this successful public schooling? Is anyone proud of these results? As a taxpayer, I am appalled. And if I was a parent, I would move out of the district before I put my student or my child in one of these public schools. So where are our tax dollars going? Clearly, the students are not reaping the rewards. Every year, our money is spent outside of the public eye. It's spent without transparency, without accountability to the constituency. This money could be spent in the classroom for supplies, class activities, and additional teacher needs. But instead, it's spent on vague and unpopular initiatives. It's spent on politically charged indoctrination of our students. And it's spent on enriching bureaucrats and administrative bloat. Parents and teachers often have to spend out of pocket to give their students even the slightest chance to succeed in our schools. All this is made possible by budget accounting that only shows expenditures in broad categories. And this is not how it should be. I have never been outspoken in local governance. I have never come to a city council meeting. I have never felt the need to speak up at a board meeting. But now, I'm here to say enough is enough. You know, we are tired of having our money wasted. We are tired of having no say in our schools. And above all, we are tired of our students being left behind. I'm here to demand transparency and accountability from our school board in the form of a line item budget, which would allow taxpayers to see exactly what their money is being spent on, down to every pencil and every classroom and every school. Every year, the school board demands full funding, but without transparency and accounting, how can we know that they are fully funding our schools? That same school board has denied citizens' requests and board requests for change. So we, as you have noticed, we, the constituency, have come tonight to the city council The city council derives its power from the consent of the governed. We have come to demand that the city council, as the checkbook of the city treasury, stand up to the school board and demand that they be held responsible for irresponsible spending. Demand a detailed line item cost account budget for every individual school, and demand that our students and their futures are finally put first. Thank you.
Kelly Hangler, 9345 Eclipse Drive, representing the Crittenden Eclipse Hobson Heritage Civic League regarding the pandemic and Suffolk Community Vision for 2021.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Bennett, and welcome to our Chuckatuck Borough Councilwoman. We appreciate having the seat filled, and thank you. Tonight, when I walked into the lobby, I didn't realize the relevance of what I would like to be able to bring to council this evening and all of our esteemed council members. There's a banner that says the vision of Suffolk, and I will tell you that 2/3 of Suffolk is not served by that banner. That vision, we have been asking to participate in, as we have not been included in the comprehensive plans that started in 1988, moving forward into the 2026 and the 2035. Here we are. Everybody knows what month and day and year is because they're oriented to place and time, and we're all same. But what we have not had reach out to in our borough or any other civic league that I know of, because we've been talking, we've been trying to collaborate together, define our asks and our needs to our city council. So I've had to separate out for citizens and tell them that the 29 million gallon sewage spill and the 276 days that our Nansemond River was shut down, that we're entering the crabbing season, which in fact our Nansemond River, Knott's Creek, Bleakhorn Creek, Bennett's Creek, Chuckatuck Creek are the result of the beautiful, wonderful soils and waters that flow into, and those marsh grasses that we have that actually, in fact, house the Jimmy male crabs that then in turn go along with the female crabs and create the entire crabbing industry on the Lower James. What we hear is happening, and what continues to happen is not a consideration of these things. We're not waiting for a comprehensive plan this time around. We've been left out of the last three. We have a human capital in Suffolk. We also have smart growth in Suffolk. A lot of this falls on 46 years, most of which these council members have not been seated for public just to know, okay, of which we moved from a Board of Supervisors format in Nansemond County and having downtown Suffolk and the city of Suffolk in the middle of Nansemond County. All of our communities are now under duress. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We don't have community development occurring, but somehow administrative versus our legislative, meaning council, versus our city, has gotten into a disjunct in which we are in a yard sale mode. Every piece of land in this community is not in a barn sale. We would like to be able to have real rejuvenation, as we were promised 46 years ago in my lifetime, of each of our actual communities, so that we can bring agri-commerce, so that we can bring the coastal message, because folks, we didn't get here by automobile. That sign behind you speaks for us for Nansemond County. It speaks to us of Suffolk. It speaks to us of a heritage that we don't have historic dominance in the region when we were part of Virginia Colony, and before that the Woodland Indians for 10,000 years. We are building up and over every archaeologic site that was recommended for past preliminary investigation. We've buried everything in Harborview, in Bennett's Creek, all the way down. Even, somebody's been trying to do it in our village, down White County, as if, oh my God, it didn't have something built on it. Let's hurry up and do that. We can do things in balance. It's called smart growth, and Suffolk is part of a smart growth format. But at this point, we are at a critical impasse. 276 days of the Nansemond River being closed? Are you serious? Those oysters that are in that marsh, those oysters that are on that oyster bottom, cannot be removed from there to another place. Okay, this isn't Jenga. Those oysters that grow there to be able to nourish and help and support our community is not just recreation. This is a food chain issue, folks. This is a food protein issue. This is being able to re-educate people in their cultural heritage for hundreds of years that you can't do that anymore because we already have a fish consumption warning in the city of Suffolk, which most of our local fish that stay here are on a food consumption alert for PCB. At what point is there a balance? And I'm coming to council and I'm asking you, please. We have a brand new day in 2021 in which we have so many grants and funding, which is taxpayer money, okay? But we have tons of grants and funding at this time that has been generated through the works of persons as myself and generations that have come before me fighting for our natural heritage here, our food sources, our food to table on our farms. We have to make some relative decisions that actually looks like and represents the people who have been here and welcomed people and the almost 130 1,000 that's projected to be here by 2040.
That concludes the time
I
allocated,
thank you
Mayor.
so much for your service, but please, we need to walk in balance. Amen.
Troy Jean, 6625 Crittenton Road, representing self regarding the Nansman River.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, my name is Troy Jean, 6625 Crittenden Road, Suffolk, Virginia here. I wanted to address some issues on the river. The reason we have historical black oystermen is because their license fee was put in the same classification as all the big commercial boats and cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So there's no way a small boat or a small worker could compete or afford to buy a license at that cost there and work the river. So there's no longer going to be any historical or any new oystermen. For that reason, we need to address that with the VMRC and get that license back to where people can afford it and be able to work these grounds in the Nasman and the Chuckatut and allow them to go back to work. Then we wouldn't be just have black historical oystermen, we would have black oystermen again. And another issue is our marshlands. All these crabs and fish only are able to breed in a certain area of the river. They follow the beach all the way from down south, and that beach turns into the Chesapeake Bay, comes right on down through Ocean View and into our river, into our Elizabeth, our Nasman, and our James. That water salinity has to be just right for those grasses and all to grow. And that takes place between Hog Island and about the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel there, and that's all. And we are destroying it and building on it extensively in Isle of Wight, Suffolk, and everywhere on the river, and have been for years. So we are the estuary for the whole East Coast, that all the fish and crabs and all follow that beach line, runs right into our Nasman River, and we are destroying it all. And when it's gone, there's going to be no place for those crabs and small fish and stuff to get large enough to go back out into the ocean, and for us to have any type of seafood industry or any seafood at all there. It's something that Suffolk really needs to take a hard look at with all this development on the waterfront and the removal of all this marsh grass, because there is no other place like this. The salinity level is not there. It's a special place. That we got the Dismal Swamp, the acidity of the water coming out of the Dismal Swamp, mixing with that water, makes it a very special place as well. And no one seems to be taking that into consideration at all when they're developing all these waterfront properties, putting all this concrete and asphalt in, and destroying these wetlands. And I would like for y'all to at least take that in consideration when you keep developing all these areas along our rivers and our in this estuary, in this vital area of Suffolk. Suffolk owns probably about half of it. So it's not like it takes place everywhere. It takes place right here, and we're destroying it. And when it's gone, it's gone. And I would like everybody to keep that in consideration when approving all this building, because all I see is, a 7-vote approval on everything that comes up along these waterfronts and homes from one end of the river to the other, and marsh grass being destroyed and big riprap being put in its place. And the new Tidewater Community College is a prime example. All that area being built, there's great big huge riprap where they've destroyed the marsh grass and put this in, building this big development. And they're doing it everywhere, and nobody's taking any of that in consideration, because I don't think anybody here's ever worked the river and knows much about it or that livelihood. So if y'all would, please consider how this area became historical and how the people got here and what they lived on, and the people that are left here and the families that have been historical oystermen and watermen all their lives. Let's make them not historical anymore. Let's open some of this stuff up, address it with the VMRC, let them buy a license there, and that they don't have to compete with million-dollar businesses out there on the river and pay thousands of dollars. They don't sell them anymore at the VMRC. You got to buy them from somebody.
Mayor, the time's expired.
All right. Thank you all very much. Y'all have a good evening.
Miller Carey, 1002 MacArthur Drive, representing self regarding school budget accounting standards.
Good evening, Council. Miller Carey, I live at 1002 MacArthur Drive. I'm here tonight again to discuss the need for better practices in school budget accounting. What is transparent budget accounting? Let's start by saying what it is not. It is not broad accounting categories across a district. To know if there's money for something in a budget like that, you have to go ask to give you the answer. And that's not transparency. It's not just line item categories, but spread out across the district. Even then, a teacher or a parent needs to ask what's made available to a particular classroom and rely on an answer. That's not transparency. It's not a teacher making a budget request to an administrator who looks in a secret file to see if money is available to fund the request. That is not transparency. It's not struggling teachers and parents providing supplies for classrooms because they don't even know that you have funded these supplies already in the budget. And they only don't know because the keepers of that information don't share it in time. That's not transparency. It's not a 21-page PowerPoint slideshow on Facebook to tell you how money is accounted in Suffolk Public Schools, but actually shows nothing. Not transparency. It's not a video by the superintendent encouraging anybody curious about how public money is accounted only to speak to him, the one keeper of the budget, and nobody else. That's not a transparency. That's not how transparency works at all. Transparency is showing, not telling. Transparency is information that is open and posted publicly and shared by all stakeholders, teachers, parents, citizens, and city leaders. Transparency is a teacher knowing well before August how much money for how much school supplies is available to her for the upcoming school year, and also know where is money going that is not made available to her. That's transparency. Transparency is a parent or teacher being able to see the budget for every school and knowing, not being told, knowing whether money is being spent equitably across the school system. something we should all be paying attention to. This is why transparency is regarded worldwide as the primary vehicle to true social justice. Transparency, rather than being the source of misconceptions or bad perceptions about spending practices, as we've heard a little bit lately, transparency is the answer to those problems. Transparency doesn't just say, there's nothing to see here. Transparency doesn't say anything at all. It shows. It shows there's nothing to hide. It shows where the money goes, and it shows how much is available to all the stakeholders in our public schools. City Council, as the checkbook of our city treasury, must demand accounting that affords accountability. Those words very closely related. Line item, state recommended cost account code budget by individual school is the only way the school board can be accountable even to its own teachers, parents, citizens, and you, our city leaders. It's the only way it can happen. City Council needs to be responsible stewards of our tax dollars and ensure that the budgeting of those funds is accountable to citizens. The city charter empowers you to call for proper accounting techniques. This governing body, the Suffolk City Council, has a fiduciary duty to oversee that our tax dollars are well spent. The school board allocation is your biggest expense. Not to demand more specific and transparent accounting for this expense up front would be fiduciary negligence. The school board, for its part, has ignored citizen and even board member requests, as you heard tonight, for many months. Now it falls on council to ensure that they, the city council, that you will not be responsible for unaccountable spending. City council needs to demand a line item cost account code budget by individual school. Insist that the Suffolk School Board get in line, show the money, fully fund classrooms with a transparent line item per school budget accounting
That concludes
before
the time
you fund their
allocated, Mayor.
request. Thank you.
Audrey Mary, 2214 Gentry Street, representing self regarding line item budget.
Hi, good evening. I'm a newer resident and a parent here in Suffolk, and I'm here to speak to you about the absence of a detailed by-school line item budget. I want to make it clear to y'all how important this issue is to me. It's quite a challenge to get a sitter these days, finish getting my kids through their homework, and take time out to ask for your assistance in this. I represent many busy parents who have expressed bewilderment to me in conversation at an apparent lack of transparency in this area. We've reached out to the school board multiple times to reconcile this, and I've not gotten a satisfactory resolution to these concerns. Before I became a mom, I managed multi-million-dollar budgets, incorporating various project formats with many companies who had different budgeting and accounting needs. It was assumed that I would present my budgets in a way that was informative and thorough to the stakeholders so that they could understand it and take action on it. If I had presented a budget to stakeholders as vague as what I found presented to the taxpayers of Suffolk on the school board website, I would have been fired. I urge the City Council to work on behalf of the parents and citizens of Suffolk to not approve the upcoming school budget without this by-school line item budget. Thank you.
David Fulkerson, 100 Massey Drive, representing self regarding opening of school.
Mayor and fellow councilmen, my presentation today will be twofold. First of all, I'm not here to talk about the budget, line items, or transparency because the people in front of me have already laid out a very good cause. What I am here to talk about is school openings. Earlier, your chief said that COVID-19 in the Suffolk area has been decreasing. In fact, it's been decreasing all around the United States, okay, for the last 30 days. If that's the case, why aren't you opening schools for 5 days a week? A half a day, 2 days a week is not going to teach our children anything. I have 2 great-grandchildren. One is 4, one is 6. My 4-year-old granddaughter can read and write. My 6-year-old grandson can read, write, add, subtract, multiple, and divide. Not because of the virtual learning, it's because they have a mother that's willing to teach them the things that the Suffolk School Board is not teaching. So what I'm asking you to look, you people work every day. Policemen, firemen work every day. They have to show up for work. Why not the teachers? I have an idea why the teachers don't want to come to school, because they're sitting home drawing a paycheck. I am retired military, and I have owned a business for myself. I could never sit home and earn a living. I believe it is time that you, the council, demand that these teachers go to class 5 days a week. Catholic schools, private schools, charter schools, they all been open since September of 2020, and we're not one problem about COVID-19. So all I'm asking is stand up and tell the school board, get busy and start teaching these children. Thank you.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Madam Clerk, are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, we have 2 additions to this evening's agenda. The first is a nomination for the Tidewater Medical Emergency Services Council, and the nominee is Deputy Fire Chief Brian Spicer.
Order. Councilman Williams, second. Vice Mayor Bennett.
Move second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward. Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0. The second item is a resolution appointing the interim city attorney and setting the salary of the interim city attorney. Be it resolved that the council of the city of Suffolk, Virginia, that William Hutchins is hereby appointed to serve as the interim city attorney and shall serve at the pleasure of the city council, and the salary of the interim city attorney shall be set at the amount of $152,800 effective March the 3rd, 2021. Be it further resolved that this resolution is effective on or after its publication and should not be published.
Motion be in order. Councilman Fawcett.
So moved.
A second. Councilman Goldberg. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to announcements and comments. At this time, I'll ask Media and Community Relations Assistant Director Tim Kelly to come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. The Suffolk Fire and Rescue Department strongly believes in recognizing its own when they're found to be deserving of accolades. Fire Chief Michael Baraki recently announced the following honors. Captain Leon Bubba Ratliff was named Officer of the Year. Firefighter Medic 2 Amy Dunn Brown was named Paramedic of the Year, and Master Firefighter Lucas Weaver was honored as Firefighter of the Year. Congratulations to all 3 for these career awards. As a reminder, the deadline for the Suffolk Economic Development Suffolk Economic Development Authority's 4th round of its COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Grant Program is midnight Thursday, March the 11th. Approximately $500,000 is available for the grants, which will provide working capital grants of up to $5,000 per selected business. Suffolk Public Works advises that Shoulders Hill Road will be closed from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, March the 13th, between Laycock Lane and the entrance to the Bennett's Creek Crossing Shopping Center. The closure will be due to work in the designated area ahead of the upcoming Shoulders Hill Road Bridge Road intersection project. Detours will be established by the contractors. Message boards will be in place this week to alert the motoring public to the upcoming road closure. Suffolk Parks and Recreation will be offering registration for its Kids Zone before and after school program and Rec and Crew after school program for the remainder of the 2021 school year. In coordination with Suffolk Public Schools' return to school hybrid virtual learning model, participants will register for 2 days a week that will correspond with their child's in-school face-to-face days only. Registration will open once Suffolk Public Schools assign students to either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday for in-school face-to-face instruction. Suffolk Parks and Rec has already opened registration for their wide assortment of summer camps. From Planet Rec to Hoops for Life, there's pretty much something for everyone. You can visit them online or call them for more details. Remember, spots in these camps will fill up quickly. And we leave you with the ways we reach out to our residents and business owners and the number in the upper left-hand portion of your screen, the 514-4000 number, to get connected with city services. If you have questions, staff is there to help. With that, say good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We'll now move on to announcements and comments from City Council. We're going to start with Councilman Williams.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. First, I would like to welcome our newest council member, Councilmember Butler Barlow. Welcome. Look forward to working with you. Also would like to congratulate and wish our city attorney, Ms. Hellevi. I didn't really get a chance to really work with you, but maybe 60 days. But I wish you the best. I know you're going to do good in your new position. I'm just so proud of you. We're proud of you. Again, I'd like to wish you well. I'm going to be short because this has been a long night. I have some other things that I want to cover. However, Mr. City Manager, I would like for you to have staff do a study, if you would. And I'm asking in this study, I would like to know the total number of contractors that we currently have working for the city of Suffolk. And of that total number, I would like to know how many are women or minority-owned businesses. I would also like to know how the city of Suffolk numbers compare to the other cities in the Tidewater area as it relates to hiring women and minority businesses. With that said, I'd like to wish everybody a good night, wear your mask, be safe, and God bless.
Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Ms. Barlow. Thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to working with you for next couple years. Hellevi, I want to thank you for your service, your friendship, and all that you've done. I wish you well on your journey. I know you'll do just great. You'll be a great judge, just a great judge. And don't stay away. Let us hear from you. I know you're moving up, but stick with us and be in touch and just wish you the very, very, very best. And with that, Mayor, I'm going to say good night.
Yes, I'd also like to welcome Ms. Butler Barlow. Like you said, I think you can do just fine. I seen you in action in the back, and I thought that was kind of, you said you wasn't here long, but you didn't take long to express your opinion, and I like that. I think you do just fine. I want to thank a couple other people, too. I want to thank the people last meeting that was concerned about my health. Everything was all right. I was negative all along. Unfortunately, everybody else is negative now, so they had some calls, concerned how I was doing with the virus. Judge, I've been calling you Judge ever since I found out. I know you're going to do well, and I thank you so much for the years that in my beginning, the question I asked you and you told me, and I try to live up to it. So I appreciate you, and I also appreciate the time you had for me when I was concerned about different issues, and you took your time enough for coming to your office, and we sat down, and we had a continuous going back to school. Okay, Lou, that's how this goes. So I wasn't afraid to come and ask you, and you was there for us. And I know you said something like, what you tried to do was tell us the truth about the law, and I think you did a good job in doing that. And you represent not only the city, but your family well. And you know your mother proud of you, and you got a lot of other people proud of you also. So thank you so much, and God bless you. I don't know, most of y'all don't know, probably don't know, but my family know. And I'm gonna say it like this, I'm scared of the virus. I mean, I'm really scared. And I take it serious. I really take it serious. And this time I want to thank someone that he didn't know I was going to say this, but I thank Al Moore. Thank you so much, man. I was telling you how I felt, and you made sure. Now I got my 1 and I got my 2 shots. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want to say this to you, Al. A friend of ours, at first, we probably didn't understand, but Patrick Roberts made a good choice of putting you where you at. When Pat left here, we was in dismay. A lot of people was going to retire. A lot of people was leaving, and so on. You had to reschedule or restructure the whole city almost. You had a lot of people have the pandemic. A lot of people were sick. But you stayed the course. You really stayed the course. Some of the things people might say, well, but you did all right. Look at our city now. Look at the COVID. Look at the organization over there where you had the city workers. Like Councilman Duman said, it's so fast. You go in there, get your shot, wait 15 minutes and you're gone. I mean, it was really awesome. Both times I went, very organized. Not only I see it there, I see it all around the city. So I think you're doing a great job right now. You have taken the bull by the horn, and with all the confusion, I think you're doing a good job. You're always there. You give that call back. So I appreciate you. When I have a situation, you really is there for me, and I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like I said, like one of the councilmen said, be serious about this virus, because I'm very serious. Keep the mask. Stay the distance. I'm glad we're not in Texas, so keep that mask on. It's not over yet. So one death is too many, and I'm really serious about that. So I'd like to say thank you. God bless.
Councilwoman Butler Barlow, your turn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to everyone for their kind words and their welcome. Many thanks also to the staff who have worked really hard to get me up to speed in very short order. Was sorry to miss my first meeting, but here I am. This is now my first official meeting, and I'm happy to be here. I want to say that as I watched the first City Council meeting of 2021, both Mayor Duman and Councilmember Johnson mentioned the passing of of Mrs. Ruby Walden, and they quoted her words. Mrs. Walden lived by this quote: "I cannot do everything, but I can do some things. What I can do, I ought to do. What I ought to do, with the help of God, I will do." Hearing Mrs. Walden's words quoted that night and listening to the encouragement and support of my family and friends and trusting in God's help confirmed my decision to apply to serve on Suffolk City Council representing the Chuckatuck Borough. Tonight, it's my honor to take my place with this group, knowing that I have the trust and support of the Chuckatuck community, but aware that it was the other members of this body that put me in this position, selected me for this position. I want you to know that I will do my best. I will do what I can do and what I ought to do, and I will represent my borough and work with each one of you for the benefits of the citizens of Suffolk. I humbly thank you for your trust and confidence. I look forward to working with everyone, and I will say good night.
Johnson.
Well, I too welcome you, Councilwoman Barlow. We are thrilled to have you. You're an asset. And obviously the city knew you were going to be here tonight because they all came out. And you got lessons tonight on the schools. I wrote down a few things we talked about tonight on our wonderful Aspen River, on how our alarm systems work in the city. You'll hear more of that. Groundwater, all the rain we've had, how much ditch work we need, the comprehensive plan, and it goes on and on. These are our citizens. And I also say thank you, citizens, for coming out. These are your issues. These are now our issues, because if they're your issues, they're our issues. So I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate you being a part of this. I have to say something. William, she's coached you well. You do know now that when we call her, she calls back in like 3 minutes, every time. And always with words of wisdom. Helaba, we're going to miss you. You know I'm going to miss you. And we appreciate what you've done for our city. And we know you love this city still, so I know we'll see you again and you'll be back. One last thing, Lou, you messed me up, because I was going to say thank you to our city manager as well tonight. I think we've really lucked into something here, Al. You're doing a tremendous job. And I say that from the bottom of my heart, because you and your staff, every problem I've had, every time I call, I get nothing but a good response. And then you dig a little bit deeper and you come up with another plan, and I'm listening. You're doing a good job, and we really appreciate you as a city council, I know, and as a city, so we appreciate what's going on. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it. First off, I'd like to congratulate all the firefighter personnel that got awards. These are top-notch people that have done extraordinary things to deserve those awards, and I appreciate their professionalism. So congratulations to all those firefighters, and to all those firefighters that work and police officers on a day-to-day basis to protect the city here in Suffolk. On March the 13th, as you heard just a little while ago, and there's been several flashes put out about the road closure on Shoulders Hill Road on the 13th, which is a Saturday, from 7 in the morning. They're going to take these two big silos down, which is going to have the road closure. This is going to create a little chaos for the Sleepy Hole Borough, because people are going to be used to going down Shoulders Hill to get to the shopping center, or vice versa to get back out to around the Shoulders Hill Road area. So you're going to have to make some adjustments. So pay attention to the road signs, pay attention to the detours. It's about an 8-hour, maybe 10-hour, if everything goes right, a little confusion and inconvenience, but we have to get those down because this is part of the road improvement project, and they got to come out of the way, and there's no other way to do it because they're too close to the roadside. So just pay attention, and you'll get through it for that one day. I want to welcome Ms. Barlow. I had a great opportunity to sit with you prior to you being chosen to come, and I enjoyed the visit. I thought it was very productive and very good. So we welcome you on council, and you got your first dose tonight, a little bit of everything we do. So stand by for all the fun we're going to get up and do here coming up. To Ms. Holland, this is your childhood dream. You've worked your way all the way to something you've been wanting to do. I remember, I think I helped you with a letter years ago to try to get you over the finish line then, but it's come back around full circle. And I know you'll do a great job. And we appreciate what you've done for us here in Suffolk during your time that I've known you over the last 8 or 9 years. So you've left us with a good interim with William. We know William's going to do a great job,
So I wish you all the luck in the world. Look forward to coming out and seeing you. On a good note, for no other reason, we'll come out and see you maybe, or maybe I'll even catch you to go over to lunch over to one of those fine places down in Smithfield. So think about that. I want to thank all of the speakers that came out tonight. We heard you. I think this whole body heard every speaker tonight. And we appreciate you coming out here and conveying your information and your compassion for what's going on. So I appreciate each and every one of you for every time you come before this body to speak, and that's your right to do so. Thanks to the manager and all your staff. It's always constantly, everything is moving quickly. Things are changing rapidly. I'm hoping that we see very shortly the City Hall coming back to life. I think you have a target for that, and I would support that target if it's reachable. But we must try to get the City Hall back up and operating. Got to get people back in here so we can get even more things done. Appreciate each and every council member tonight for all and everything we've done. I think we've accomplished a few things tonight. I look forward to hearing and seeing you all on the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would like to say welcome to Sister Barlow, and I know you have already been instructed by Joe. I'm sure that he took you in the corner and sort of gave you some schooling of what to expect and how it was going to go down and all that. So I wasn't worried about you at all. So I didn't bother calling you because I knew you had a lot of instruction down there in the Barlow family. So welcome, and I'm looking forward to working with you. I know it's going to be great working with you, and I've been knowing you for some time, and I would just say it's good to have you on board with us. So again, welcome. And also, Mr. Manager, I would like for someone, the lady that called about got up and spoke about the alarm system. I don't think she quite understands the process of that. It sounds like that's what she just needs someone to explain, because it wasn't because she had thought that she had 3 infractions because she got the bill, but she just needed to know, I think, how the system worked. And maybe she will be all right after she understands the system. And the other, that's what we're here for, to listen to the citizens. So you came forward to give us your thoughts and whatnot, and we do appreciate everyone else that came and spoke. I would like to also say that February is Black History Month, and it's closed now. But I'd like to give a lot of shout outs there to the police department and also with the sheriff department. They put a lot of information out there about some of the former officers and some of the officers in the departments, and giving them some recognition of appreciation for their service and whatnot. And believe it or not, I was looking at one of them, and I popped up in one. So I said, wow, okay, where did you find that from? But anyway, that was good. I think that that's good to give people some recognition when recognition is due. I'd also like to congratulate the 4 firefighters. I think they was well deserving for their recognition, for their awards as well. And I can't thank them enough. And now to this Hellebuyr Hollow. I would just like to say to you that I've been knowing you probably just about all your life. And your father and I worked together, rode together. And he didn't have a boy. So he tried to name you as close to his name as he could get, so he would have that name still out there. So that's the reason why she's named Hellebuyr, because her daddy's name was Hiller. So that was as close as he could get to naming a girl after him, but she had to get a little bit of that in there. So I know he's resting in heaven, but I know he's very proud of you, and I know you were the only baby, and he would do anything, carrying you fishing, doing whatever you wanted. That's what his whole life was about, his baby, Hellebuyr. So congratulations to you. I think that you have served the city well. You was honest, you had integrity, and sometimes some things you said, it might have not been what somebody wanted to hear, but you told them the law. And it was up to us to follow the law, but you would lay the law out to us, what the law says. So I'm sure you will do the same thing sitting as a judge. Your Honor, this is the way it is because this is what the law says. So I'm sure that you're going to do a great job. You have a lot of support. We are very, very proud of you. We hate to see you leave the city, but we know that this is better for you in years to come. And all we can say is we are here for you. We're here to support you. And anything I can do to encourage you, my phone number will still be the same. If you get a little down and out, need somebody to talk to, and mama don't want to hear you, you can call me. I'll be there for you, okay? And again, congratulations. We love you, and we will miss you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I'll finish this up here. First of all, I want to start with welcoming Councilman Butler Barlow to our first meeting. Should have been our second. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's particularly significant to me since I followed the footsteps of her father-in-law, Mr. Joe Barlow, which were rather shoes to fill. And, you know, my whole goal was to provide the same type of representation and wisdom that Mr. Barlow brought to council when he was here. And, you know, we've talked often since, and just great individual, and I appreciate you willing to serve, and I know you'll do an outstanding job. I also want to talk about Hellevi. I'm not happy with Hellevi. Everybody else is happy. I'm not happy. I'm disappointed that Ms. Hellevi Holland be stepping down as our city attorney. I mean, over the last 9 years plus that I've worked with Ms. Holland, I've great respect for your legal acumen and the dedication that you've displayed during your tenure. But I'm also elated that you've been appointed as a judge for the General District Court. I know this has been an aspiration of yours for quite some time, and I am confident that you'll do an outstanding job performing your judicial duties and will continue to serve, you know, our citizens with distinction. So I wish you only the very best as you embark in this new chapter in your life. We're fortunate to have, you know, William Hutchins willing to step into your position. You'll have worked together for many, many years, and I'm sure we'll be in good hands. And I would like to get a couple of get out of jail free cards before you leave tonight, just so I can flash them. I heard that they were available, so I want to be the first one to put my name on the list. And for most of you, you noticed that I was not in attendance in the last meeting, and that's because I tested positive for COVID-19. I actually had a negative test on a Tuesday. My wife had the coronavirus about 10 days before I did, and so, you know, we're kind of in the same house, and you know, so the manager said, well, you got to get tested. So I got tested on Tuesday. I said, man, Al, I got great news. I tested negative. He said, that's really swell. Go do it again in 5 more days. So 5 days later on that Sunday morning, I tested positive. And because I tested positive, Councilman Ward couldn't come to the next meeting, and Councilwoman Butler Barlow couldn't come to the next meeting. So I single-handedly wiped out 30% of city council for our last meeting. So at least I got something done. I want to thank, you know, the many, many people who texted me, called me, put some posts on social media, wishing me well and offering their prayers. Fortunately, I was blessed with a very, very mild case with very few symptoms. And I want to thank everybody for their concern. My greatest regret, I think, during my quarantine period was not being able to attend the 100th birthday celebration of Miss Marie Hill in Hobson. She's not only a centenarian, I think I said that right, and I think she got a picture on the Schmucker's jar and the whole deal. She had a nice article in the Virginia Pilot, but it was much more than a 100th birthday celebration. She is considered by many the matriarch of the Hobson area. She's a lifetime resident. Her family has descendants going back to 1865 when they're part of the Black Oysterman heritage that went back that far. I've considered a good friend. She's one of my greatest supporters. I think she's probably still up. She watches almost every council meeting, and sometimes I'll get a critique on the way home or later on when I see her. But she's just an inspiration. I mean, at the age of 90, you know, when she went to school, of course, it was during segregation. There were a lot of hardships, and she was only able to finish the 7th grade. But one of her aspirations was to finish high school or get a GED. So at the age of 90, if you can imagine that, at the age of 90, and having some physical issues, being blind in one eye and one arm that doesn't work quite right because of a stroke, she took 3.5 years and obtained her GED at the age of 94. Now, I mean, just do the math. So, I mean, she's an inspiration to all who know her. We had prepared a certificate of recognition that I was unable to present because I was quarantined. So I'd like to take a minute and just read it. Certificate of recognition awarded to Marie B. Hill. This certificate is presented to Marie B. Hill in recognition of her 100th birthday. As a native of the former Nansemond County, Miss Hill attended Hobson Graded School despite various physical challenges. She earned her General Education Development Diploma in 2014 and is a lifetime member of the East Suffolk High School Alumni Association. A person committed to the advancement of social justice, Mrs. Hill is a lifetime member of the NAACP and spent many hours visiting local jails to provide inspiration to inmates. Mrs. Hill remains committed to her family, her friends, and her beloved Hobson Village. The City of Suffolk is honored to recognize Mrs. Marie Hill on this significant milestone and extends its best wishes with all of her future endeavors. And that was dated the 22nd day of February 2021. So, happy birthday, Mama Hill. Sorry I didn't make it, but you had quite a celebration. And with that, I'll move on to my quote of the night, and my quote of the night is from a friend of mine, Miss Carolyn Shotton, and it came at the end of an email. And it's a little 4-word quote. And that quote is, "Be positive, test negative." So it's got a lot of relevance. Oh, it's pretty cute. 4 words, but they say a lot. And with that, I will say good evening and ask for a motion for adjournment. Who said that?
So moved.
Councilman Fawcett.
Second.
A second from, pick somebody, Councilman Williams. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Dooman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, y'all do it 39.